Now to Washington, and Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas publicly acknowledging for the first time those luxury vacations he took that were paid for by a Republican billionaire. ABC's Perry Russum is at the Supreme Court with the latest. Perry, good morning.
Whit, good morning to you. Thomas has said he views these trips as personal hospitality from a friend who does not have business in front of the court, and he did not believe he had to disclose them. At the center of this are two trips from the summer of 2019. The first was to Bali in Indonesia, and the second was to an elite private club only for men in California. Both of these trips were free for Justice Clarence Thomas, and they were paid for by his billionaire friend Harlan Crow, who is also a GOP megadonor. In Thomas's financial report released yesterday, it reads those trips were inadvertently omitted from previous reports, but there are still questions about how he got to these places and if he used Crow's super yacht. There's a history of travel and business between Thomas and Crow, including Thomas flying on Crow's private jet 5 times in 2022. And ProPublica reports in 2014, Crow bought 3 properties in Georgia from Thomas, including one his...
Tonight, the desperate search for a popular British TV doctor, Michaelmosley, who vanished in Greece while on a trip with his wife.
All the rescue teams of the island are looking to find him.
Police say Mosley's wife reported him missing after he went on a walk Wednesday afternoon, just one day after they checked in for a week-long stay on Simi, a small Greek isle off the coast of Turkey. Surveillance images showing one of his last known sightings, walking next to a shop in the village of Pedi. Emergency crews mobilizing helicopters, drones, and a search dog to find Mosley. Simi's mayor saying reinforcements have arrived from Athens and Rhodes to assist in the search.
The rate at which you lose weight has no impact on whether you regain it.
Dr. Mosley rising to fame as a presenter on the BBC. The documentarian and host of shows like Trust Me, I'm a Doctor, advocating for healthier lifestyles and becoming a vocal advocate of intermittent fasting. Now fears for the health of one of the most prominent TV doctors in the UK growing more and more by the day.
This comes as this week the Biden campaign released a just eye-wateringly hypocritical but also revealing statement. James Singer, the Biden-Harris 2024 spokesperson, put out this statement. Reeling and increasingly unhinged from his own felony convictions, Trump raising plans to jail his political opponents is just the latest proof that he will do anything to regain power, preserve his own freedom, and seek revenge on anyone who opposes him. The warning signs are clear for all to see. Trump is a danger to our Constitution, a threat to our democracy, and so consumed by his own failed, diminished state, he has gone off the deep end. The irony,
right?
I don't. So it's beyond hypocritical. It's beyond ironic, right? This is obviously after they have, in effect, jailed
weaponized
Donald
the system
Trump.
against Donald Trump. And they want to put him in jail.
They're like, how dare Donald Trump lock her up? We locked him up. Do you know what I mean? Like, work yourself through that. Welcome back. Well, squatters strike again, this time in Toledo, Ohio. Local landlord Jeff Savage had just finished evicting a tenant from his property last week, and then he renovated it, when he returned to find another family living inside with the locks changed. Jeff Savage joins us now. Jeff, I saw you say you never thought this would happen to me, yet it did. A new family just walked in, changed the locks, and took over your house?
Correct. It was normal eviction court date. I went to the home 2 weeks prior. Everything was gone. I assumed I would just get to the house, put the lockbox on the door. My crew would go in, turn it over, and we'd put the new renter in. I went to the house. The locks had been changed. I called our Toledo police. They came out, talked to I guess you want to call them the tenants, the new tenants. And they came out to see me at the front curb and told me that they had squatters' rights, which is the first for me. I've got about 500 rentals in Toledo, and this never happened to me before. I never heard of squatters' rights, so I had to drive home from a property that I own that I paid property taxes on.
Wow.
While the squatters got to stay there, and they're still there to this day. So I'm in eviction court again, evicting people I don't even know with no lease, no utilities in their name, and here I sit.
Non-paying tenants, as you have to go through the legal process to get them evicted, which I'm told takes 30 to 45 days. Hopefully it is swift for you. Jeff, we're really short on time, but we're glad you joined us. Thank you. Hopefully you spotlighting this issue prevents other people from having to go through it. Jeff Savage, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
You got it.
I'm Steve Doocy.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.
Keeping them honest with a matter of fact, not opinion, about the Democratic and Republican candidates for president. Whatever else you might think of them and whoever you plan on voting for in November, President Biden and former President Trump see the world as differently one from another as any two modern-day candidates have. What's more, their differences are not trivial. They touch on decades of bipartisan consensus about the way American democracy and foreign policy works. And lately, the contrast between the two is increasingly on display, from campaign rallies to courthouses to cable news, and today a World War II monument to American Army Rangers who fought and died on D-Day 80 years ago.
We talk about democracy, American democracy. We often talk about the ideals of life, liberty, pursuit of happiness. What we don't talk about is how hard it is. How many ways we're asked to walk away, how many instincts are to walk away. The most natural instinct is to walk away, to be selfish, to force our will upon others, to seize power, never give up. American democracy asks the hardest of things, to believe that we're part of something bigger than ourselves.
President Biden today at Pointe du Hoc in Normandy saying what even a decade ago would neither have been especially remarkable nor freighted with the kind of meaning it carries now. The difference is context. Today, that perfectly unremarkable tribute to self-sacrifice landed hard on the heels of the former president, again suggesting in a clip that was released last night that the entire federal justice system be deployed to avenge one individual, himself.
Well, revenge does take time, I will say that.
It does.
And sometimes revenge can be justified, Phil. I have to be honest. You know, sometimes it can.
That was the answer to Phil McGraw's attempt to do what Sean Hannity also failed to do the night before, namely get Donald Trump to stop talking so openly about seeking revenge. It hasn't worked, and just yesterday, the former president also called for members of the House January 6 committee to be indicted. Reaction, it appears, to his former strategist, Steve Bannon, being ordered to prison for defying a lawful subpoena from that committee. The same Steve Bannon who received a presidential pardon while being accused of bilking money from Trump supporters, claiming it would go to build a wall on the border during the final days of the Trump administration. President Biden, by contrast, just reaffirmed a commitment not to pardon his only surviving son, Hunter, who's on trial on gun charges. In his tribute to the Army Rangers today, President Biden also invoked Vladimir Putin's aggression and NATO's joint response.
They stood against Hitler's aggression. Does anyone doubt that they would want America to stand up against Putin's aggression here in Europe today? They stormed the beaches alongside our allies. Does anyone believe these Rangers would want America to go it alone today?
Well, for more than 7 decades since the end of the Second World War, the bipartisan answer to whether the United States should go it alone in the world has always been no. And outside the fringes, Democratic and Republican support for NATO has been, if not a given, then certainly the vast consensus. So in that, nothing President Biden said today would even raise an eyebrow, except, again, by contrast.
One of the presidents of a big country stood up and said, well, sir, if we don't pay and we're attacked by Russia, will you protect us? I said, you didn't pay? You're delinquent? He said, yes, let's say that happened. No, I would not protect you. In fact, I would encourage them to do whatever the hell they want.
I cannot believe my team is making me do another spider segment. All right, you follow me on social media, you watch the show, you know I am terrified of insects, especially the Joro spiders. They're now spreading, making their way up the East Coast. I hope they're skipping over the D.C. area. These things are huge. They have a leg span of up to 4 inches, and one is apparently here right now, along with Andy Davis, ecologist at the University of Georgia's Odom School of Ecology. Andy, it's nice to see you. The cicadas this year were going to be the worst thing we have to deal with, but now I understand your spider friends are back.
Yes, thanks for having me back. You know, it's weird how these Juro spiders seem to get in the news all the time. They're a bit of a media sensation, aren't they?
Well, tell us, do you actually have one with you, or my staff just teasing me about that?
I do, yes. But first you need to know that at this stage of their life, they are very, very small. And so think of a grain of rice with some legs. And so I have one right here in this little jar, and it's so small you can barely see it. But I've also put one
That's not very dramatic.
in a little container here, and I can set it up on my microscope right behind me so you can see it. There it is. And so you can see that it looks like a little tiny spider right now. It's very small, size of a grain of rice. At the end of the summer, they'll be sort of spider size. That's when everybody starts to see these for real.
And do they fall off trees, or is that just a urban legend? I mean, do they jump off trees? Do they jump off bushes? Where are they jumping?
Not really. No, they're very sedentary. Just like any other spider, they'll set up a web, and they'll be in that web for 3 or 4 months, and you can walk by them and they won't bother you if you don't bother them. Now, if you walk through the web, you'll get a face full of web, and then there'll be some yelling.
Wait, but when they land on you, every time I walk in the woods with my dogs, and I do that a lot, I seem to walk through these webs. I don't know if anyone ever walked through these. That seems to always happen to me, and I scream, of course, I'm trying to throw the web off. But if the Joro spider ends up on your person, will it bite you, or will it just crawl on you? Oh my God, I would die.
Yeah, it might. And so
great.
You would have to really tussle with it a lot for it to bite you, because really they're quite shy as a spider. And I've actually tested that in my lab. From what I've heard, their bite is kind of like a bee sting. And so it's not going to kill you. You won't like it. But most of the time, if you just leave them alone, they'll be fine.
Andy, you are reassuring, though. You were so nice to come on. Thank you so much. Great to see you.
Great to see you. Thank you.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.